Okay, another very common task when working with data is needing to link different data sets. So here we have a list of product ID with quantity, and we need to pull through the product name and the price. And we have a separate table that has the product ID, the name, and the price. So we need to pull through these two data fields into their related table here. This is like a transactional table, and this could be master data. So how we can do that, we can use something called a VLOOKUP. We will look at an XLOOKUP too. I prefer using an XLOOKUP. It's a more recent function that's been added to Excel. But again, if you get stuck, I do have the formulas in this example here, but we're going to go and we're going to populate these yellow blocks here. So what we want to do, we want to go and look up product ID 1 from this table. We're going to find 1 and we're going to return chair. And the next time around, we're going to go and we're going to get the price. And then for the next line, we're going to do the same. We're going to do the same, and we're going to go through for each of these IDs, and we're going to pull through the related information here. So let's see how we can do that. We always start with an equals, and we're just going to type VLOOKUP. And there you can see it brings up what we need to do. So the lookup value, what is the value we want to look up? We want to look up this product ID. Then we do comma. The table that we want to return the data from, where is that? Well, that's going to be this table here. And what column do we want to return? So if this was column 1, this would be 2, that would be 3. So we want to return column 2, because that was the name that we wanted to return. Do we want an approximate match or do we want an exact match? We want an exact match. So we're happy with that. And we can now close our VLOOKUP. And let's pull through chair for product ID 1. Let's go and check if we're correct. Chair is product ID 1. So we're all good now. We can grab this and we can drag it down. Now all of a sudden we have non-applicable items here. Now why is that? So you can see here, I've called this topic VLOOKUP and anchors. Because when we're looking up our value, we're looking up from the separate table from A1 to C4. So we're saying go look in this column from A1 down to C4 and find that value. Anything outside of this, it's not going to find anything. And when we're dragging this down, you can see it's incrementing each one of these items by 1. If we go down, that now says A3 to C6, A4 to C7. Now all of a sudden, A4 to C7 is this range here, and we're now not getting any more value. So what we need to do is lock this little table down that it only ever looks in this section. And how we can do that is we can use anchors. So when we're looking up, we're always going to want to, when we drag this formula down, is look for this new product ID from this data set. But we're going to want the range that we're looking from here to stay the same. So we're saying A4, that we're not going to change. That must increment to A5, A6, etc. But the VLOOKUP list, A1 to C4, must not change. So if you click anywhere on this A1 and you push F4, you can see it puts 2 dollar signs down, one in front of the A and one in front of the 1. That means it's locking A1. It's not going to change either one of those. If you push F4 again, it now is locking the 1, but meaning that if you dragged it, the A could become B, could become C. If you push it again, it's locking the A, and it's leaving the 1 open, meaning it'll always be A, but you could increment it to A2, A3, A4. In our case, we always want both to be locked down. So we push F4 again, it removes everything. We push it again, it brings it back. So it just cycles through the options. C4, we also want to lock down the C and the 4. So we push it once, and there we've locked it. So we go enter, and now if we drag this down, it pulls everything correctly now because it is only looking within this range. So nothing is out of scope. We're looking at everything correctly. So we can check that 4 is a desk and 3 is a bed. Let's go and have a look. 4 is a desk and 3 is a bed. Now we want to go and do the same for the value. So let's do it all from scratch again. We're going to go equals, VLOOKUP, tab. We want to look up the ID. The table array that we're looking is this here. The column we want is 1, 2, 3. We want to return the value here. So that's going to be 3. We want an exact match. And enter. Let's pull through 100 for a chair. There we go, we've got 100. Now when we go back, we know already that we need to lock down our range, because if we just drag it down, it's going to be wrong. So we push F4, we click on the second part of the range, and we push F4. Now we can drag it down, and we're great. We've got the same numbers as there. So there we've pulled through the related info from our table through using a VLOOKUP. Now there's a new function in Excel called XLOOKUP, which makes life a little bit easier. So again, we just go equals X, and we find XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP has got a lot of options, but we don't need to worry about all of them. So what do we want to look up? We want to look up the product ID. And the array we want to look up is the array of IDs. We only want to look through that little range of IDs there. And what do we want to return if something is found? We want to return, say, the value. If it's not found, what do we want to return? We can return a 0. We want an exact match. And search first to last. We can leave that as a default. You don't even need to put items in there. You can just leave it. And we push enter, and there it's pulled 100. Now, what happens if we drag this one? It's getting the zeros, because we said if we don't find anything, it must return a 0. So again, we need to use our anchors. So we go here. We're looking at A4. That can change, because this product ID will go down through the whole list. We're always going to look at this list here, and we're always going to return that list there. And now we drag it down, and everything comes through correctly. So that is your XLOOKUP. I find it a little bit easier to use than the VLOOKUP. One note on the VLOOKUP, your ID, or the field that you're using to look up between the two different data sets, always has to be the far left-hand column of the table. So you couldn't use an ID in the middle of the table. It always has to be the far left-hand side. But that's how you do a VLOOKUP and an XLOOKUP.